Okay, there's a pretty picture of the SAS. Now I'm showing off my ammunition. And that's in prelude to showing the gun, the 365 SAS, Sig Sauer. And I run out my target. Um, by the way, I'm not scripted here, I'm just chatting away to make this more interesting. I'm at the 7-yard line from the look of it, and there I go, start shooting. Um, I have done trimming, of course, in the editing to remove the boring bits where I'm reloading and such. And initially, I started off well, but I threw one there. And of course, wherever you see the cuts, just assume that's because I've done a reload or something of the sort. And I'm kind of struggling with the sights because of the illumination. I had a lot more overhead illumination than I expected, which made the sights extremely bright relative to the target. So it was very difficult for me to do the proper eye focusing technique that I will be discussing later in the tabletop. Now, one trick I did here in my editing is when the camera zoom was not quite enough, I used the editor to zoom in. And that's basically just so you can see where I'm hitting. Because, well, I think that's important. I mean, if I'm going to shoot a gun and you want to be able to see where the shots are going, it really helps. And it's obvious there. I've got two of them on the cardboard already. So, already missed the paper twice, and that's at 7 yards. Which, 7 yards is really the minimum I like to shoot. Of course, I always pull in to see how I did. I forgot later when I was doing my tabletop how far I went. So this next target goes out to the 10-yard line. The 10-yard line is actually my preference. I don't know why, it just is. And that second zoom in, that's the editor. Again, a lot of fun with the editor. I first thought that shot to the left was a flyer. And then when I hit the bull, I was happy. And then I hit right next to the first shot. I was like, oh no, that's where I'm landing. And then the shoulder and cardboard. I'm just doing terribly. Now, the ammunition I'm using is not exactly target grade. It's actually piss poor ammo, but I didn't think it would really be an issue. And honestly, I don't know if it was an issue. I mean, maybe I should have used target grade ammo to do this. I mean, I only fired 100 rounds through the SAS. So in this portion, I'm just basically, every time I really am aiming for the red in the center. And sometimes I do shake when I'm missing. Other times it's because all I'm seeing in the sight window is just a bright green light. I'm not seeing a circle with a dot, which is what you're supposed to see. I'm just seeing total greenness. And going by that. Now, of course, in a real-life self-defense situation, you'd be at point blank. You wouldn't even be looking at that. But at any rate, this is my traditional pull in the target. See how I did. So today, Saturday the 18th or whatever, I took the SAS for its first outing. And apparently, for some reason, people have not figured out how the takedown procedure works on this guy. It might have something to do with the fact that Sig Sauer has not yet updated the instructions, and people are a little slow on the uptake. So I thought what I would do, perhaps, is demonstrate that even though you do need a tool to take this bad boy down, it's not an especially elaborate tool. I used, okay, this is a rimmed cartridge. This is a 38, or is it a 357? I don't know. Snap cap. But you can use a cartridge rim, or you can use a screwdriver. Now, it's possible you might make the mistake, once you've got it out, of releasing the slide stop. And this is a slide stop. It's not a slide release. You're meant to slingshot it or over the top it or whatever. It's not meant for dropping the slide. And of course, so if you do that, what's going to happen, and I don't think it matters that I haven't put those things together, this is going to go back on. No problemo. Just push this up, rotate, and maybe I need the other bits in there. Ah, I think I see it's pointing the wrong way. No, it wasn't. Okay. Just do it again. Yeah, that has to be flat. Okay, what am I doing wrong? Oh, I was colliding with a little bit here that flipped up. So once that's in, you can flip that up, and then there we go. So when it's vertical, it's locked. When it's horizontal, free to go. And let me lock that again. Take it apart again, because I haven't cleaned this yet. Yeah, there's a little bit in here. I'm not sure what it is. Oh, it's part of the trigger mechanism. But you'll need to make sure that that is down. And this is flat, and so forth. And when you've got it back, there, you can get it locked in. And it's, yeah, single action only. Anyway, so it's had its day on the range. Only 100 rounds of CCI Blazer brass, which is not exactly target ammunition. And because of the lighting situation, and it's obviously really difficult to show the dot on the camera because it casts a very narrow beam that is focused. The way you're supposed to shoot this, and it doesn't tell you anywhere, but imagine you're shooting a red dot sight. You're supposed to shoot both eyes open. So what you do is you line it up until you see the dot inside the circle. Now, if you close your dominant eye, in my case the right eye, the dot and the circle disappear. If I close my left eye, and you don't see me doing this, do you? The dot and circle remain. So you keep both eyes open, you've got the dot centered in the circle, and instead of focusing on the sight, you focus on the target. It works just like a red dot sight. The dot is projected into your focal plane. So what you're aiming for is both eyes open. You look at the target, line up the dot so that it's in the center of the circle and the dot covers the target, you know, the part of the target you want to hit. And then, well, it's not cocked. And then take up the slack and squeeze. That's the proper way to do it. I stand by that in spite of my poor performance. What was going on was the lighting was so harsh that the dot and the circle blended together, and so I wasn't able to do that centering act. And in fact, it was so bright, it was drawing my eyes to the back of the pistol rather than to the target. It took real work to focus on the target rather than on the sights. Which is backwards, of course, because, you know, with iron sights, you focus on the front sight. But the whole point of optics is the reticle is in the same focal plane as the target, which is what makes optics so wonderful, because, you know, you relieve your eye strain and whatnot by just simply focusing on what you want to hit. And really, that's what it was. And what happened was the light was just so bright, like I said, was just overwhelming the sight. It would have been nice if I knew ahead of time that I was going to run into that problem, because I thought actually I was going to have the opposite problem and have the target in more light than what I was getting on here, would have been to just, you know, put a little bit of pink saran wrap or something to reduce the amount of light coming into the optics, so that I would have had, you know, the clean sight. Plus they use fluorescent lighting. So various lighting conditions are going to make the sight, you know, challenging. Oh, I keep putting it in there. On those conditions where it's like bright way out there, but dark where you are, so that you have the dot and whatnot totally washed out. Because unlike a Trigicon ACOG reflex sight, for example, which has fiber optics on the front to gather light from the target source, and also a polarizing filter to allow you to adjust the contrast, which is really cool. Kind of expensive. I don't know if it's still in production, but it's a damn good sight. Anyway, you've got, you know, your tritium vials in here. Presumably they're in front of these screws that hold the sight down. So I think there's 2 tritium vials in there, but I'm not really sure. Anyway, imagine that there are, and you know, they run the light through the tubing, and there's light that falls on the tubing to amplify the whole affair. And then in this middle slot, or middle ridge, that's where your sight is. Well, you'll notice that this whole affair is ever so slightly elevated above the slide. So in the worst possible case situation where there's just literally no way you're going to get a sight picture from the optics, what you can do is teach yourself to use these 2 grooves to make a traditional iron sight picture. And what you have to do when you're doing that, and you may have to wink out your non-dominant eye, is make sure that you're not looking at any of the top of this, because that'll cause you to shoot high. You need it leveled. So that's the way the system is intended to work. But of course, yeah, so you don't have ideal conditions, but with both eyes open, your dominant eye sees the reticle. You keep the dot in the center of the circle, and then you simply are looking at the target, focusing on the target. You cover the spot you want to hit with the circle, with the dot inside the circle, and you can blink back and forth, you know, wink, you know, you can use winking. Sometimes, you know, that helps with 2-sided shooting. You wink your non-dominant eye, and that gets you a good sight picture. And in principle, you should be able to shoot very accurately. Now, my first 100 rounds, I did not shoot very accurately. I wasn't, you know, I had theory down, but in practice, you know, sometimes practice kind of stomps all over your theory. So in my first target, I had kind of close, and I don't remember what I did with the second target. Like, I think I pushed it out a bit. And then I tried third target, and this is where I noticed, all right, I appear to be shooting to the left. And then here I tried compensating, but it sort of backfired on me down here. I hope I've got these in orders. Like, these shots were aimed where this hole is. And here I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, maybe that's the fifth from here and one wandered off there. I'm not really clear. And I believe I splurged and did 10 shots here, and they went wherever. But I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. And since I intended to do 5, I basically lost count and fired an extra shot. And so I only had 4 left in the magazine for here. And at that point I had, because I'm doing, more than simple. I initially started with strings of 5 and then said to hell with it, I'm going to fill the magazine. And these distances are close. They're like maybe 5 and 7, or is it 7 and 10? I don't remember. And afterwards, I wanted to do some comparison with 22 long rifle, since I had one of these targets left, firing from my Beretta, using the Federal bulk. I was using the Federal bulk ammunition, and you can see I'm doing pretty terribly here too. So, if I'm shooting terribly with a long sight radius, high precision 22, then it's a little difficult to blame the SAS for bad shooting with the 9mm. And I believe I just pushed this out to 10 just to pepper it with a few magazines. And then I had one target left. I pushed it to 25, and I wasn't getting a lot of feedback, and now I know why. I was hitting high. So I had to pull it in to see how high, and I used up my ammo to punch out of that area with the 22, and of course I've got hits all over the place, and I'm sure I completely missed the cardboard backing completely a number of times. So those are results. So when it comes down to it, yes, this is jumpy. I'm not really sure that the compensators are doing anything at all. In fact, I rather doubt their efficacy at all at reducing recoil. I just think it would be nice if they were not there. Now, if all of this is dimensionally identical to original P365, then the simple solution, simple. The simple solution would be, and yes, I'm going to go through this again. Turn it enough. Yeah. Yes. The simple solution would be to replace this.
basically throw a non-ported barrel in there. Now, why does it say G19 on there? I just noticed that it has G19 stamped on there. What does that mean? Is that an homage to Glock? But at any rate, yeah, barrels, I know they tend to be expensive, but if a replacement barrel without the ports drops in there, that would be cool. So, 100 rounds with the P365 and my first impressions. It's giving good grip surface. So even though it's jumpy, it's not too bad. I had a couple of times where it didn't go fully into battery, but you know, it's the first 100 rounds, and I mean, it was only ever so slightly, like a millimeter out of battery, and all I had to do is, you know, just a little tap on the back. So I think that's just a question of, you know, where, you know, running it in, and, you know, better lubrication on the rails, and it should be good to go, because there were no other indications of issues. I'm sorry I was not thinking of retrieving any of my shell casings to see if I was getting primer drag. I probably was, but who knows. The evidence is gone.